The year is 2005. Society is progressing at a rapid rate. YouTube has just come to life, which spelled the end of me doing anything else with my life. And Matty was pursuing a career as a fake sports fan. Go Celtics! Huh? You want to talk about games? What's a Kingdom Hearts 2? Baseball and girls are the only language I speak, friend. It was around this time of self-denial that BioWare was living its best life with an era of unforgettable RPGs. From the years 2003 to 2009, they dropped Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect, and Dragon Age Origins. All of these series are relevant to this day except one single 2005 game that never saw the same level of attention. Welcome to RPG Time Machine, a video series dedicated to traveling back in time to the RPGs that build the genre we know and love. Just like your favorite games, each episode features a choice that you have to make at the end, so be sure to stay tuned for that. With that in mind, in our first ever RPG Time Machine episode, which will be linked in the description down below, we covered Dragon's Dogma, and it was an absolute blast. A lot of you interacted, and you had to make a vote at the end. Do we go with Champions of Norrath from Snowblind Studios making an action RPG on the PS2, or BioWare's hidden gem, Jade Empire on Xbox and PC? Now, while Champions of Norrath put up a great fight, it was all Jade Empire, baby, with 1,110 interactions to the 502 that Champions of Norrath received. So thank you to all of you who are voting, and do remember, all of this original content is supported by you on Patreon. And with that in mind, let's talk about Jade Empire. Jade Empire was released in 2005. You want to learn more? Well, according to the title screen, you can head over to jade.bioware.com and, well, I guess we're going to have to do the digging ourselves. So, this is a game that even I'm guilty of not giving enough attention to on my channel. Unsurprisingly, despite it being my first time playing it ever in 2017, 12 years after its release, it was a BioWare game I was infatuated with. I loved it the least of their golden days in the early 2000s, but loving something slightly less than a masterpiece is like apologizing to a team who won a championship 3 years out of 4, and you're like, oh man, I'm sorry, look, you guys didn't win this 4th time in a row. Oh god, is that a sports reference? You grew past this, Matty. This is not you anymore. What makes Jade Empire such a fascinating game is that you can really conduct a case study on when exactly BioWare started to transform the way they would develop their games. Dragon Age Origins withstanding, this point forward, BioWare was all about action RPGs. At its core, Jade Empire is a mythical version of Shenmue with a dab of Knights of the Old Republic thrown into a blender for mixed perfection. We talk pretty often on the channel about game design and how vital it is for some games to cut their scope down for the sake of the quality of other mechanics. If left unchecked, many games can end up stretching themselves too thin and feel undercooked. It's with that in mind which makes Jade Empire such an achievement. It casts its net wide, tackling a new combat system for a team mostly familiar with strictly turn-based, gets mythical elements involved, heaven, hell, wandering spirits and the like, adds wild bullet hell minigames in a ship, and yet it manages to ground itself in this believable world where an empire is rising out of the long drought, led by their powerful emperor, Sun High. It has choice-driven dialogue, the hilarious idle animations with the endless head nods accompanied by many earlier BioWare titles. However, when combat kicks up, it feels like nothing else quite out there. Jade Empire manages to feel both familiar and completely new at the same time, even to this day as someone who is an avid BioWare fan and frequently replays their games. To be thorough, let's start at the beginning. The character creator, I'm gonna be real here, it feels super limited, much like the original Knights of the Old Republic, where you have a set of portraits that you can pick from, like, okay, big deal. Each preset character varies in their approach from fast to strong. They have these specific martial arts to start out with, which you can change if you'd like, along with your mind, body, and spirit, or as most of us call it, health, mana, and stamina. Opening up to the Two Rivers School, you are the most prized possession in this cramped village. There's a special calling to you, and you only, that Master Lee, the one who runs this school, promises to unveil to you soon. It is soon that you will learn the way to the underworld is closed and spirits are aimlessly wandering across Jade Empire. You are a spirit monk, and as one, you must shepherd said spirits and purge the darkness from this land. What sets this up are two driving forces for the story that function differently from most RPGs. Typically, there's a protagonist who is figuring things out as they go along, and an antagonist that sets up the pieces for you to maneuver how you see fit. In Jade Empire, it's a journey of self-discovery where every potential antagonist you knock down doesn't seem to be the true cause of strife among Jade Empire, and the mystery grows. It's a game world where as you receive more answers about yourself, you learn more about what took place and what needs to be done to solve it without it feeling overly intrusive. It's clear this was a very challenging game for BioWare to take on. In fact, they were quite transparent about that, noting that it felt a little intimidating to be a bunch of guys and gals from North Alberta trying to make an epic kung fu game with a ton of inspiration from Asia. However, their dedication was without question. For starters, this was their first own original universe. Previously, they went into the likes of Dungeons & Dragons with Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, or of course borrowing from Star Wars with Knights of the Old Republic. They made it their own, but it was never truly theirs. Jade Empire is all theirs. They went even as far as to make their own language. In this game, you'll find various NPCs speaking in the Old Tongue. It sounds a little something like this. New York Times even dedicated a whole entire article to showing the new language that cost BioWare 4 months and $2,000, thus hiring a linguist. BioWare contacted the linguistics department at the University of Alberta and came across Wolf Weekly, who would then help them bring 10% of their recorded dialogue in line with the Old Tongue. Wolf went to the length of actually inventing an alphabet, creating 50 and upwards of 200 words per day for Jade Empire. Thofon, which is the name of the language, even had its own grammatical rules when using verbs, saying to be in exchange for articles like and the to mark tense. Amazingly, they used the first chapter of John's Gospel from the Bible as a way of testing the language out via translation. When I say it's hard to top old school BioWare, like, this is what I'm referring to, okay? Because 99.99999% of the players are going to just hear gibberish. It kind of doesn't matter because all that's happening is an idea is being translated. Like, this is an old language. I'm not going to understand this. It's dated. But the fact that they went to the length of constructing the language, having grammatical rules, constructing in a way where it sounds different. One of KOTOR's biggest issues, by the way, were every alien race said the same number of things no matter what paragraph it was. This was a level of effort that I don't want to say is impossible for modern BioWare to achieve because you never want to close the door on that, but it's what made this era so special. Moments like that.
Gavatumpa kulpa iya moka paata. Chiyoka kutumpa kulpa iya. Gavatumpa kulpa iya moka paata. Chiyoka kutumpa kulpa iya.
At the top of all of this, I talked about how this game was transformative for BioWare as a team. They focused mostly on turn-based or real-time turn-based combat. With the likes of Jade Empire, it was the start of real gameplay changes such as in Mass Effect and eventually bleeding into the likes of Dragon Age with Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition. Jade Empire's combat allows you to map 4 different styles to swap between and will allow for unique combinations in turn. I can use Heavenly Wave, a support martial art, to slow my enemies, whether it be with a radius attack or just by directly striking them, and then swapping the Leaping Tiger for fast damage, thus outrushing my enemies. That's just one example because as you explore the world, you'll be able to learn more martial arts by completing quests, going to vendors, so on and so forth. Legendary Style allows you to use your legs a little bit more, while Golden Staff allows you to have more weaponry where it can be effective to have range. The depth is added when you account the followers who are joining you in battle. Unlike KOTOR, where you previously would have 2 other party members alongside you, Jade Empire only allows 1. That follower can utilize a particular tactic of your choice, with some capable of more offensive or support-based options depending on how you want to play the game. So you can have, say, Dawnstar, one of the first companions you meet, can recharge your chi in a support role or join you in battle. Henpecked Ho, why not have this guy support you by dropping some alcohol onto the battlefield? And guess what? This will allow you to perform the most wild forms of the drunken style. All this builds the gameplay's clear love letter to the history of China that BioWare was referring to. It's just all so different, but so clearly inspired. Now, I don't mean to beat the action drum too hard here, but as I've said before, when BioWare started to shift to action, I felt it always came at a cost. Now, that changes depending on who exactly you are and what you value as a gamer, but here's what I mean. In the case of Dragon Age 2, the sacrifice was moments of meaningful choice, and the clear budget on display damaged both the location and enemy variety. In Jade Empire, the choices in your quest is still there, allowing you to walk a similar light and dark side path that we saw in Knights of the Old Republic. We'll get to that mess soon, but for now, the drawbacks really stem to that management of your team. There's less inventory management between you and your party members. So BioWare described this game as a single character experience, and they meant it, okay? You can only slot gems in the ever-expanding dragon amulet for your character. All of your followers are as advertised. No changes, nothing. It's just a package deal. You got them as is. So this lack of customization hurts the experience for me. It's not the end of the world. I just wish I could throw different outfits on my characters that would alter stats, because you have these gems that will change those stats, but that's it. Everyone just really comes and looks as is, and maybe that's just, once again, going back to the animation work and all the different things that are happening in this game. It's driven heavily by the action, so it could be a product of that. I mean, the questing in this game didn't get sacrificed because some of them are wild, and I mean wild. I brought some examples with me. Look. First, the hilarious side of things, all right? I know you all like to laugh, okay? That's why I got these pictures of me here. Come on. Now, what you're seeing here is a husband and a wife, as well as a childhood lover with some problems. We'll just say it nicely. She thinks that a promise this man made back when he was 6 years old about marrying her should apply here in this day. Some men are currently having nightmares as I read this script. I, as a higher intellect, thought that the quarreling lovers should solve this with a duel. This was the result.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Come on, Lon, let's go.
What? That's crazy.
You can't be serious. Eileen would kill her. No. What? What have you done? By the Emperor, you've killed her.
Now we can be happy, Bay. Just the two of us.
You monster.
Bay? Bay? No! I'm sorry, Bay. I never meant to hurt you. Not you. You. This is all your fault. You had to stick your nose in and wreck everything. Now Bay's dead, and you're going to pay. Leaping Tiger.
Otherwise, things can end without the need for death by super punch, okay? It's not all gloom and doom here. My personal favorite, well, it's actually kind of gloomy, was exploring a formerly flooded area. I crossed an orphanage where the spirits of 2 children had yet to pass into the underworld. It was a dark moment where the selfishness of man had brought a bright spotlight being shined upon it. I felt compelled to get involved, but knowing I could take this quest in a dark route made it all the more alluring, as is the case with BioWare's work around this time. I could have had the children had their revenge on the former orphanage owner. I could have had the orphan owner actually bury the bones. There were so many different ways to go about treating this quest line, and it was surprising to see BioWare go this far. You always want to get the most out of your game, right? Well, guess what? BioWare wants to get the most out of you, okay? There were 3 different additions to BioWare's Jade Empire, and it's quite interesting how it all turned out. The standard edition, it came as is, full game and all. There was a limited edition originally available in Canada, but eventually came worldwide. This version held an extra disc that contained the data for a character model, Monk Zheng, a magic type character, and replaced the Golden Star weapon with Tien's Justice. This also held the making of video by G4 alongside 3 game demos, Forza Motorsport, Conquer Live and Reloaded, and Mech Assault 2 Lone Wolf. Lastly was the special edition over on PC, which came with everything from a new transformation style, Rhino Demon style, along with 2 new martial styles, both Iron Palm and Viper, and weapon styles. It did not contain the TN's Justice weapon style from the Xbox Limited Edition, strangely. Like, it's so weird how this was all handled. There were improved new special effects and redrawn textures, new monsters, new high-level weapons, and improved AI, a Jade Master difficulty level. You can import save games, enjoy a new world map interface, have some keyboard and hotkey support. Oh, and it contains a bonus art book, a poster as well. You thought that was all. Matty's not done yet. Turns out it was compatible with the Radio Shack USB converter. Look at this guy. He must have been thrilled. And according to BioWare, their main focus was the brilliant PC-centricness of it all. See? You thought you had it so bad with your FIFA Ronaldo edition and Icon edition, and then you had a normal edition, and then a Todd Howard edition. Life ain't so bad, is it? What of the future of Jade Empire? Will we ever see more? Unfortunately, there seems to be a bit of a trend with this series where we're picking dead games, and I know it's about the past, present, and future of them, but this is kind of my fault, isn't it? The most action Jade Empire has seen lately comes in the form of 4K upscaling for the Xbox console. So if you're on Xbox One or you're on Series X or S, you can see Jade Empire in 4K, but it's still that 4:3 ratio. As you can see here, we take the traditional route here on the channel. Also, Jade Empire on my PC doesn't work. So with that in mind, the Jade Empire Special Edition was brought to iOS for those who want to take this mythical adventure on the go. On January 22nd of 2019, a new trademark was filed for Jade Empire, with life coming back to this game in the prior year with the small updates, that 4K update it got, along with speculation running rampant. Some people were thinking there was a possibility that BioWare's hidden gem was getting a second chance, especially with internally there being a desire for that game to happen too. Former senior creative director of Dragon Age, Mike Laidlaw, who has now left BioWare, had the following to say on a podcast about Jade Empire 2. It existed for some time, but it ended up going on the back burner. Jade Empire 2 was talked about, it was certainly considered. In a universe where there could be a Beyond Good and Evil 2, 14 years later, I think it's very possible there could be still a Jade Empire 2. If someone said to me, hey, what would you do with Jade Empire 2? I have an answer. I have a very clear answer in my head. But I also recognize that a majority of the leadership of Jade Empire 2, the people who are really passionate vision holders, are all on Dragon Age. And as we know now, BioWare is currently working on Dragon Age 4 as well as the next Mass Effect game. So that's all we have for Jade Empire. We're back here in the present day. What do you think of this game? Let me know. But before that, it's voting time. What is happening next in this video series as we bring choice and consequence to the YouTube space? It's time for you to vote. Do we go with Lost Odyssey or do we go with Blue Dragon? Which game will you decide for our next episode of RPG Time Machine? I can't wait to see how things shake out once again. I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts. By the way, always feel free to fire away with suggestions for RPG Time Machine. I'm more than open. And with that, take good care of yourselves. Reminder, once more, all this content is supported by you through Patreon. So thank you to all the patrons who really push the limits of what we can do here. I appreciate each and every single one of you, and I'm looking forward to doing more RPG deep dives. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.